I've personally run over 10,000 plus discovery calls and I've made all the mistakes. In this video, I'll share the 6 biggest mistakes I've made and the ones I see reps continue to make that has cost them deals every single day. And it starts with number 1, not following a buyer-centric discovery framework. One of the things I learned early on was BANT. Budget, authority, needs, timing. Although these are important things to uncover as part of your process, these focus on the salesperson and the company to see if the product is qualified. In my opinion, this is a qualification framework and not a true discovery framework. It can lead to a very transactional feel to the process, which ultimately drives down your closing ratio. When you use a customer-centric or a buyer-centric framework, then you're actually focused on the customer as you are focused on uncovering how you can help them solve a major problem. For instance, my powerful framework in which we are uncovering 8 core components that are essentially in moving the deal forward and closing faster. And once I figured this out, it changed the game for me. And these 8 components are P, pain. What are the big pains and problems at a micro and macro level? O, opportunity cost. What is the cost of inaction if they do not solve the big problem or problems? How can you quantify it? W, wants. What are their needs, wants, and desires at a micro and macro level, at a personal deep level? E, executive level influence. Who is involved? How are they involved? What's that exact process look like? R, resources. Do they have access to more budget, funds, or capital? Can they raise capital, take a business loan out, create budget, etc.? Here's a hint. Only if they're the true ultimate decision maker can they actually make an impact on this. F, fear of failure. Do they doubt that their existing vendor or how they're currently doing it is simply not effective enough and will lead to failure if nothing changes? U, unequivocal trust. Do they have unequivocal trust in you, your company, your leadership team, and your product, etc.? L, the little stuff. Do you know all the little stuff you need to even do a proof of concept or proposal, pricing to implement, etc.? When you run a powerful process like this and you truly go deep with each decision maker, you'll move your sales process so much further. And that's a true discovery process, not a qualification process. Mistake number 2, not being curious enough. Following a framework is very important, just like the one I just outlined, but the mistake I made early on was not being curious enough. Even with a powerful framework, that's just a surface level of what you uncover. When you are genuinely curious, you'll dive deeper. Let's talk about pain, for instance. If the prospect says that they are manually tracking support tickets via just manually marking them unread in the support team inbox, and you uncover it takes them 5 hours a week to stay on top of that, then they usually still miss a handful of support tickets a week. If you're genuinely curious, you can actually go deeper to extrapolate that. For instance, got it. So when you say a handful, how many on average are slipping through the cracks? How does your team realize they've missed it? How do these customers feel about it? How do those customers feel about it? What's the average LTV per customer? What's your current churn rate? Where do you want that to be at? How about your NPS score? Where do you want that to be at? How that impact the business to get to that level, etc. You get my point here. Now, obviously, you need to adjust your tonality based on the questions, and definitely do not machine gun fire the questions, as it must be conversational. But when you're genuinely curious, you're now making your discovery call transformational and not transactional. Deep follow-up questions ultimately helps them gain clarity and insight on their actual situation. This helps increase trust and makes it clear to them you actually know their ICP. Mistake number 3, being too rigid. A framework is like driving on an 8-lane freeway. Everyone's going the same direction, but given the situation you're in, you may need to slow down, change lanes, speed up, move around, whatever, based on how the traffic is. Your framework is no different. Don't treat it as a checklist of questions, but as a guideline to keep you on track. You're still heading the same direction, but you may move around based on how they answer. For instance, if you want to dive into pain first, but once a call starts, they start telling you all the tech specs they need for the build out. Instead of being a sales robot and trying to shove them into your little sales process box and saying, that's great, so what's your biggest challenge you're trying to fix? Instead, just use that piece of intel they told you to dive in deeper. Thanks for sharing that. It seems like building app integration is super important to you. Can you tell me more about that? You're gonna want to know this later anyways, so you might as well start diving into it now if the box has already been opened. Mistake number 4, using lazy sales questions. Lazy sales questions are questions you want your prospects to tell you just to make your job easier so they can sell themselves. So for example, let's say you sell a demo software and you uncover the prospect sales team just using Google Docs to demo. A lazy question is asking a question like this right after. Got it. Google Docs. So if you use a demo software, you'll close more. So what's the ROI for you guys then? Or something along those lines. The reality is that most prospects will not have done the actual ROI or haven't mapped out a rough ROI. They might believe they need to improve their demos, but they more than likely have not quantified to that level. So instead, once you find they're using Google Docs, you can then dive in deeper to uncover things like this. For example, the current state, the team's average closing ratio, how many demos they average per month, the average LTV, the impact it's having to having low numbers, etc. And then the desired state for the team's closing ratio, the actual revenue impact, the impact on them actually hitting the desired numbers, how it aligns with overall initiatives, etc. You're actually working with them to quantify the actual positive impact, aka the cost of inaction if they don't fix the issue. Lazy sales questions won't get you there. Being a trusted advisor that digs deep is what actually moves the needle. Mistake number 5, pitching too early and too much. One of the ways most sales orgs attempt to build their sales team's confidence is product knowledge training. Now, although it's very important to know the features and specs, it can also lead to it being used at the wrong time. Here's what I mean. When you study product knowledge up front, you become well versed in that, meaning your confidence then stems from what you know about the product. So when you're in a discovery call and the prospect says they have problem X, and you know feature Y can solve it, this can lead to a salesperson getting very excited to share how they could solve feature Y. It can go from seeking to learn and understand to a pitch very early on that can actually hurt your chances of closing. Let's say, for example, you sell a sales CRM. If the prospect asks, does your tool allow custom fields? Now, average Andy says, absolutely. We can customize any field that you like, whether your rep wants it or you want it. It's super easy, helps reps stay organized and more productive. Reps can add and remove things as well to make it visually more appealing too. Then the prospect says, actually, that's not good. We had issues in the past with that, with the reps and managers creating arbitrary fields, and that was inconsistent team by team. This actually made it harder for consistent reporting across the board. Now, average Andy has to backtrack to overcome this objection that he created without realizing it. Now, imagine Superstar Sarah. If the prospect asks, does your tool allow custom fields? Superstar Sarah says, sounds like that's important to you. Can you elaborate on that? The prospect, well, we actually had issues in the past with reps and managers creating arbitrary fields that were inconsistent team by team. This actually made it harder for consistent reporting across the board. We want to set specific custom fields at the corporate level and lock access so no one at the team level can make changes. This allows consistent reporting, dashboards, and rankings across our 30 teams. Superstar Sarah, I'm glad you share that. When I show you the demo, I'll show you exactly how we can set admin privileges at the corporate level so all 30 teams are consistent across the board from reporting, dashboards, and rankings so they can hyper-focus on what really moves the needle for the business. Big difference there. This shows the process you actually hear them and you're focused on them, not you or your company. Mistake number 6, treating discovery as a step in the process. The reality is that when you internalize being curious and asking deep questions, discovery becomes embedded in every single step of the process. And the mistake many reps make is they want to have a list of questions they ask in discovery, and once they're answered, they move on to the next stage. Here's an example. Let's say you sell an internal LMS, a learning management system, and you had a great discovery meeting with the Chief Human Resources Officer. Let's say he wants to see a demo with the VP of HR, so you'd be excited to set up for Friday at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. rolls around and you jump on the Zoom with your sales engineer. The Chief Human Resources Officer is on with his VP of HR, and to your pleasant surprise, the CEO and COO are also on. Average Andy asks for some quick intros and then passes on to the sales engineer to run the demo. Now, this is a huge mistake because now there are new players that join the game. And even if you ask your champion some details about them sharing what's important to them before the demo even starts can help you cater the demo even more. For instance, Superstar Sarah. Before we dive in, I want to make sure each of you walk away with all your questions answered. If you don't mind, let's go through a quick round robin of introductions, and please share at least what's one thing you want to make sure we cover so when we end this meeting, you're like, this was so valuable and definitely not a waste of my time. Now, this is a very, very simple example right here, but the key is to stay curious and to constantly seek to understand. Treat discovery as if it's embedded every step of the process until it's closed and onboarded. So there you have it, 6 of the most common mistakes that I personally made a lot in discovery, and the ones I still see reps making every single day as costing thousands of millions of dollars in commissions. Now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment below which mistake are you going to fix next, and subscribe to get more tactical trains like this. And if you want to copy my Wall Street Journal best-selling sales book, 6-Figure Sales Secrets, head to the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.